So, hi, and welcome back to the Midlife Momentum podcast. I am excited today. I've got a guest with me. Her name is Marie-Josée Bourassa. She is the founder and manager of the Méno-Joie clinic, which is here in Montreal, Canada. And her aim with this clinic is to help women who are suffering through the transition of menopause. And she wants to offer them a safe environment that prioritizes compassionate medicine, which I love. Before opening the clinic, she was an accomplished nurse clinician and a leader in healthcare services here in Quebec, with an expertise in women's health and decades of managerial experience, all which have prepared her to lead this clinic, offering healthcare services to mature women. So Marie-Josée is also the 2021 recipient of the prestigious Jean Masse Award for her contribution to the development of nursing care, as well as improving overall healthcare for the population. So with that, I am honored and excited to have Marie-Josée on the podcast today. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Debbie. It's my honor to be here with you. Thank you
Awesome.
for the invitation.
I am so glad you took the time to be here because I have a lot of questions, and I'm sure they're questions that are questions my audience have as well. And I have been to your clinic, which is just absolutely beautiful, and very impressed with the services that now we can get here in Montreal. So that will probably be my first question is, you have
Mhm.
been in the healthcare system here in Montreal for a couple of decades. And as a professional in this healthcare system, what did you see that inspired you to start this clinic, this Méno-Joie clinic?
Mhm. Well, just to start off, after 26 years of working in the public healthcare, all of those years were wonderful years, and they have always been concentrated about caring for maternal child health. So obviously, I've noticed there's plenty of um, offer from primary healthcare to more tertiary healthcare, whereas more the complex care needed, where I served in two major hospitals here in Montreal, that there were many services for women going through fertility treatments, going through pregnancy care, going through postpartum care, going through specialized gynecology care, for example, when there is a problem with regards to any gynecology issue that can arise at any stage of a woman's life from puberty on to menopause. But then around 2022, there was this big shuffle that occurred here in our province where women were contacting me, close friends. I have two sisters, and also clients saying, "Hey, Marie-Josée, is there anything for menopause?" There's all this influencer here in our province who put out an opinionated, very personal documentary called L'Auto-Méno, and everybody was like, "Marie-Josée, you got to watch this." So I took the time, and at the same time, I was doing the IMHL program at McGill, which is an international health leadership program. Um, it kind of got mixed together. The stars aligned for me, Debbie, in the sense that I saw that there was a need. I saw that I was lacking information. And after managing, at this point, I was the coordinator of all women's health, the mission here in a big university hospital, that there was no services specifically to menopausal and perimenopausal women. And to be honest, in our mission and my values, I'm like, you don't need a specialist to go through this natural life-changing event through your health lifespan of all women that will go through this. So it kind of made me reflect and got me curious. And I started digging and looking at research and then looking at interviewing top physicians that were colleagues of mine who were very honest with their interview process with me and saying, "Marie-Josée, there's a lack of time, there's a lack of education, and there's a lack of not interest, but it's sad to say, no judgment to the healthcare system. The system is saturated and it's probably worldwide. And our universal package here in Canada is that it's obviously RAMQ covered here in our province, which is, how could I say, maybe you can help me, Debbie, depending on your audience. It's the universal healthcare system.
Yeah.
So being saturated for women to ask questions around what's going on with my body, what's going on with my mental health in this transition, it goes way beyond menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
So, based on that, I said to myself, okay, I have to do something. And that triggered a spark in me to say, if I can't have a clinic for primary health care, because it's not the mission of the hospital I was working for, there's a lack of interest with specialist of gynecology. That's not their mission. They're saturated with severe situations where women do need the care. And then in the primary healthcare, the front line, like for example, a family physician aspect,
Mhm.
there's a lack of knowledge and interest to develop in that sense. So, being a nurse at heart, I've always loved my profession. I said, I'm going to build a business plan to offer women optimal access to care, to get information and healthcare, and expertise around the mature women's health portion. So, 40 plus, although evidence is showing perimenopause can be as early as 35 with no hesitation. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing that daily here in our clinic. So I'm taking the time to explain to you, Debbie, how it was this complex investigation that caught me with a passion. And I said to myself, I need to do something about it. And what sparked it even more is my husband said to me, Marie-Josée, many people have great ideas, but many won't take action. So if you really want to take action, you got to open this clinic. And that's how it all began.
I love that. I mean, you saw a need, you filled a need. Basically, there was a hole in the system that you found where doctors didn't have the time or the education. I imagine not the budget. So all of these things came together for you to be able to do this. And amazingly, you've put this together. I have been to your clinic and I love the experience because, as you said, I have a family doctor. I'm very fortunate here in Quebec. It's not always easy to find a family doctor. So I have
Mhm,
an amazing family doctor, but she doesn't have the education that I needed um, to to understand what I was going through. So I
mhm,
just am grateful that you created this clinic. I think
mhm,
a lot of women, and I know a lot of women, since I have written about it, have reached out to me and asked me for the number and have consulted with you already. So it's obviously not just me. A lot of women needed this clinic. So I really appreciate that you've done this.
Well, thank you so much for that feedback. It feeds the passion of persisting and continuing because there has to be very strategic because it's quite unique the service that we're offering where it's a nursing led clinic with nurse practitioners here in our province. Nurse practitioners can prescribe, can diagnose, um, and obviously we always highest priorities are patient safety. So it's when I say it's unique, it's just because our mindset in nursing is very holistic. It's very thorough with our evaluations so that it's not a 15-minute turnaround, deal with one issue, one problem, one healthcare issue, and that the volume has to persist. So, for example, we'll take a full hour as an evaluation, and some women is like, wow, why 1 hour? To go through a full evaluation, I think it's, I don't know if you mind sharing, Debbie, but I
Mhm.
think it's the least of time. Sometimes we actually can run out of time because it's a moment for women to share their genuine experience and ask their questions and get a thorough assessment taken, both physical and it's very holistic, right? So
Yes,
that's what's
yes.
so important in that approach for us. And yeah, thank you for your feedback. And it's just the beginning. We opened in January 2024 officially, so it's quite
Yeah.
exciting, very exciting.
Yeah, you're just in your eighth month, but that is what I experienced. So when I was there, no rush. You're not rushed out the door. And like you said in your bio, compassionate medicine, very much that's what it's based around. So I felt that I was being listened to, which I think is the most important thing, that there are so many symptoms associated with perimenopause and menopause that yes, you can't just sit down for 5 minutes and talk about it. It's not just a menstrual cycle. There are so many issues that are tied together that I think having somebody to listen and somebody to validate the things that you're going through are quite possibly related to to perimenopause, just felt reassuring. And
Mhm,
it felt,
mhm,
yeah, I had a great experience being there
mm.
and just felt held and listened to, which are so important.
Fantastic. It's part of the process and it's not just one time. Our goal is aiming at, well, the true mission is to ameliorate the quality of life based on the women's definition of her quality of life and longevity. aging healthy. When we're 40 and busy and career oriented and raising children and teenagers, we're not necessarily preoccupied by longevity. But when you're hit with this fluctuation of hormones, which we can define as perimenopause, into menopause, which is the absence of menstrual cycle and period, um,
Mm-hmm.
we have a time there that is so important in the timeline of our life to kind of check in with ourselves and gain a sense of control to see what is important for our health and prevention. We're a lot about prevention and not waiting for future potential, um, how could I say, illnesses that can arise just with normal aging. So I hope that makes sense, Debbie, what I'm trying to
Oh
explain in that
yeah,
sense.
no,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. No, it does make sense. And thank you for sharing that. And what I'd like to do is just go back a little bit to something you said before, which was because this came up when we talked initially, which was you mentioned a physician, Sylvie Demers, which
Yes.
who was the physician who started this petition a couple
Hmm.
of years ago that you had
Correct.
talked about, which I didn't really know about, and maybe that's the discrepancy of the language in this province. I am English speaking, and then there's obviously the majority of French speaking, and she is in the French speaking population. So perhaps that's why I didn't hear about it. But can you tell me a little bit about what that was about and how it started to shift things here in Quebec?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you a little bit of how that all started and how the interest came just in line with the creation of my project for Clinique Méno-Joie. But you have to understand as well, Debbie, if you invite our guests and you're in for yourself, if you Google and you dig a little bit, even just on media, on the actual media through our newspapers, etc., there was a lot of movement with the Loto Méno documentary of Véronique Cloutier. For anybody who'd be interested, it is available. But there's other same type of documentation or documentaries that are happening internationally, just to tell you, and you must be
Yeah.
hearing it from your followers. So Sylvie Demers is a family physician. She's a biologist and she's also a researcher. She actually wrote a very excellent French book, Hormones au féminin, feminine hormones. And we're going back 2005. So that's a while ago. And
Mm.
to be honest, I had no clue this book existed. So through the documentary, I researched, and she was a key pillar of the documentary to give credibility to women's testimonials, right? To give credibility to say women are asking, and the big piece is to debunk the Y study that took place with conclusions in
Mm-hmm.
2002, saying that hormonal replacement therapy is dangerous for women. So she really went through the research and she wrote books to educate women. And in that case, she has been the fighter, the leading pioneer of our province, a little bit like what we see in the US happening a lot on social media. She's just more undercover, I'll say, and I think it's part of who she is. Um, our clinic staff have all been trained with her directly. So she had, at the same time, in about 2022, and don't quote me, it might be the year before, leading to the 300,000 women signing the petition stating they want proper health care when they're transitioning into this perimenopause and menopause stage, that they require for those who choose HRT, hormonal replacement therapy, to
Mm-hmm.
have it covered by our RAMQ, by our universal health care. And that petition, with at the same time the documentary of L'Automeno, and another third documentary that I'd like to cite is Enquête, inquiry in French, Enquête, which is very scientific, in-depth research that validated that hormonal replacement therapy is safe for the majority of women. And we got through this province with Ministre Dubé acknowledging that women do need body identical hormones that are safe for the right assessment, right patient, right time. And
Yes.
the estrogen and the prometrium, which is progesterone, is now covered in our province, which is such a big win. It's a step in the right direction, Debbie.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I had a chance to look at those documentaries. So after you had mentioned this to me, because I hadn't seen them, So I found it fascinating. It did echo very much the other things that I have read, which are maybe more, either American, British. So it was very much in line with that, but it was so good to see that that was happening here at home
Here
and
at
that
home.
your clinic is actually, based on that. So I just
Yes.
think that's really exciting. And yeah, the bioidentical hormones, I just want to understand, and maybe just for the audience, just to simply tell us the difference between what there's bioidentical hormone and there's synthetic hormone, and what is the
Correct.
difference?
To
So,
be honest, and this is something that I'm sure maybe members in the audience that will listen to the podcast, and even for yourself, depending on what kind of conversation you'll have with your healthcare provider, many in the more traditional medicine don't differentiate and don't really like the term bioidentical. Bioidentical, it's a proven term and it's been adopted with our Ministry of Health when validating that these hormones are covered here. And the way I've been trained and the more I've researched it, it's really the composition of the molecule that is the difference. So, for example, when we see that the woman is going through perimenopause and menopause, often there's a shift or a decline in the progesterone, which is one of the
mhm,
hormones, and estradiol, which is one of the it's probably one of the main hormones within the estrogen family that women will produce through their ovaries that will decline until menopause. And those are the two same molecules that are prescribed. So estrogen, for example, is just one name, and I'm not pushing for any type of specific estradiol. But just to give you an example, it's the molecule that is replacing the exact molecule that is now deficient or fluctuating too severely, giving a woman symptoms that is prescribed. And that's our value. We want to give what's the most natural for the women with the lowest dose at the right time and that it's safe for that patient. Hence, there's, family history, your own history, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing too is that the synthetic to compare will be a molecule that is synthetic. So we're talking a conjugated estrogen. So
mhm.
without naming any types, you would see that on the brand that it's a synthetic form, which is a conjugated estrogen. And then a progestin. And this can get tricky because between
Mhm.
progesterone and progestin, it's quite similar. And not all women are interested in biology and chemistry and healthcare. So that's the main significance. The molecule that's being replaced or supplemented to compensate, to alleviate the symptoms, would be the same molecule that your body was making and no longer producing in equal amounts of what your body needs.
Okay.
So does that make sense? If you'd like, I
Yeah.
can clarify even more.
No,
You
no,
have the
no,
floor.
that's great. That's a perfect definition. That is very clear to me. So that is what is covered. So you, in your clinic, you prescribe these do you prefer, you said body identical, bioidentical, is it the same thing
It's the
or?
same interverse.
Yeah,
We can interchange. It's
yeah.
just I feel there's been unfortunately a lot of
Mm,
reactions to the use bioidentical
mm.
because it's been confounded with probably after the Y study in 2002,
Yeah,
2002.
2002.
Women who were now withdrawn their hormones because the physician did no longer want to prescribe turn to pharmacies that can compound, that can make a preparation that is not necessarily well dosed or validated, and it's just not FDA approved when it's a compounded form of a supplement of hormone. So, not to confuse anybody, that's where the bioidentical hormone became a bit of a bad press. So that's why I really want to clarify that the molecules we prescribe, we start with lowest dose and the actual hormone that is lacking versus a synthetic hormone that is conjugated, made it in laboratory. And Dr. Demers quotes in the documentaries that they're made from a pregnant horse's urine, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
And like there's something better in our philosophy, but at the same time, the women need to be able to have that conversation with their provider to be
Yes.
able to say, what am I being prescribed and what is the best form and et cetera. That's definitely a turn that I really think it's important for women to knowledge is power, and to be able to ask more questions and can ask to say, if I was to have a prescription or a desire to replace and start HRT, can I be prescribed the RAM you covered, or the progesterone itself and the estradiol itself? So I hope that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yeah, no, it does make sense. It does make sense, and it also brings me to the question. So there is hormone therapy available for women. I think that, like you mentioned, the Y study, or what is the Women's Health Initiative study that came out in 2002, kind of really blasted basically hormone therapy. So a lot of women went off of it, but we know now in recent years that a lot of the things with that study, there's a lot of questionable data or things that were taken out of context. So we're coming back to the safety around hormone therapy, and still not a lot of women I know in my generation were still very stuck on that study. So
Mhm,
it's going to be slow, I think, to change for some women their view of hormone therapy.
mhm.
So I know not all women want it, or can take it because of contraindications based on, like you said, family history or their own history with hormones. So when you women come to your clinic, what other things can they do if hormone therapy is one possibility, but what other things can they do to manage their symptoms?
Yeah, it's an excellent question because often you will see a lot of clinics opening online. I think there's a big momentum around menopause right now, and
Mhm.
in the world everywhere,
Yes.
because we represent a big demography, mature women. So it's a personal choice. Never should there be a healthcare professional imposing any type of treatment on a woman. There needs to
Mm,
be a process of research, reflection, and authentic expression of having questions answered that are qualified and that they make sense for the patient and science at the same time.
yeah.
So for a woman that's really not ready to even have the conversation around HRT and is curious about her life changes, we really have several pillars of care, in the sense that from the evaluation, many symptoms, the clinic was based on the most common symptoms that can arise. So obviously very common hot flashes, but so many women that we do not have hot flashes, but will have the
Mhm.
brain fog, the joint pains, dryness, vaginal dryness, skin dryness, eye dryness, headaches, insomnia, very common. And another big sphere is around not feeling themselves anymore and being able to have a sense of mental health check in with themselves and to get proper support, not feel isolated. And maybe one last one is definitely around the genital urinary sphere, where a lot of women will experience either urinary leakages or increased urinary tract infections, etc. So I composed a service at the clinic where we have our basic track of nursing care, where we look at, are we in perimenopause and menopause? How is your general health? We look at nutrition, physical activity, supplementation, if there needs to be or not.
Mhm.
What medications are women on? Because another phenomenon that is heartbreaking in my sense is many women are over medicated without addressing the true fundamental issue from the beginning. We see that every day here.
Yeah.
So we go through all of those in that assessment. And then afterwards, it's more tailored to the patient's needs. Do we need support in nutrition? Because we're a little bit all over the place with potential weight gain that is also natural with menopausal transition. Then we have physiotherapy and care for all the genital urinary sphere, with the fact that problems are reversible. That's something that's important for women to hear, is that it's
Mm.
not for life. And if you take care, you assess, you invest in your health, your results will be usually quite astonishing and life changing. And then the
Yeah.
mental health, as I was mentioning, I may be repeating myself a little bit, but I think it's so important for women not to
Mhm.
feel alone. So many will say, I don't recognize myself, or I don't feel myself the same. And that's where after the first, if like nursing can do quite a bit of counseling and clarifying and educating, but some women need a little bit more support, and we offer psychotherapy or coaching at our clinic. So that was a
Mhm.
long response. I hope that this is good for you,
No,
Debbie. We have
that's
like we
very
it's a
complete.
one-stop area. It's a one-stop clinic, which again represents the uniqueness that how many women are sent from a doctor's appointment with a referral, go see physio, go see a psychologist, go see this, and they're stuck with, of course, we promote autonomy. We want women to be autonomous and choose their providers that they feel comfortable with. But
Mhm.
in my vision, it was to have one place where all services can be offered and rendered to the patients according to their needs.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that. I love that you can, because it's such a big issue, such a big topic. I won't say it's an issue because it's not a
No,
condition. It's something
no,
that we're all going to go through if we're lucky enough. It is, but it encompasses so many different aspects. Like you said, it's mental health, it's genitourinary health, it's so many different things that one doctor is not going to be able to help. I think it's a team of people necessary in some cases to be able to help a woman through this time. I think that
absolutely.
is a way to look at it, but that there are a lot of things that she can do on her own as well. And as a
Absolutely.
coach, that's what I can do, is offer my clients things they can do on their own, like nutrition and exercise and stress relief and sleep. And those are the kind of things I help with. But I love
Mhm,
that you have all the services. So I
mhm.
think that is so important for a woman to know. Yeah.
And thank you for what you do, Debbie. Honestly, thank you to you as well, because it's a community, right? And it's a question of
Hmm.
interest and passion. And I always believe women, if they engage and they're ready for a sense of engagement towards taking care of themselves, the resources can be found by services like what we offer.
Yes, I agree. I agree. It's a team effort, including the patient. I think
Correct. Oh
she
yeah,
has to be
absolutely. Center.
engaged and advocating for herself. And this might be the first time in any of our lives where we have to advocate for ourselves. Maybe we've never had to do that before, but I find in menopause, this is now becoming a time where we have to speak up because
Mhm,
I think before us, generations before us haven't said anything or have not been allowed to say the things that maybe they wanted to say.
mhm.
And now we can, and we can advocate for ourselves, and we can get the help that we need. It's out there.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. There's definitely a movement around, and this is in any sphere of health, right? For me, my passion is mature women's health, but if audience are listening and spouse or men or like partners, sisters, cousins are listening, it's as if there's a sense of saying a sense of gaining autonomy and control with regards to what's in it for me, what's the win-win, versus a different older model of
Mm.
expert to patient without having a chance of exchange. And I mean, there's excellent providers out there. I have worked with excellent physicians throughout my career, both public and private. And it's a question of having a fit with that with the healthcare provider in that sense. So I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more. I couldn't agree more. Women are living longer. That's a question that comes out so often.
Mm-hmm.
Some women are like, well, my mom didn't take hormones because they were dangerous and give breast cancer, which is absolutely false. Then after those are saying, how come we didn't used to have hormone replacement therapy or problems before? And now it's like we hear about it all the time. And we have to acknowledge that women are living longer.
Mm-hmm.
Longevity has increased over the lifespan of humankind. So in that case, it's that opportunity again of speaking up and realizing. So I don't know, it's something that it's very personal for everybody in their own sphere to take time to
Yeah.
reflect on it and even say, how am I feeling? Check in with themselves. And that's definitely your expertise as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then to make changes of what's right. And another thing too is you can't do everything at the same time. It really has to be a process. Um,
Yes.
but for women that are having, for example, brain fog and having even trouble sometimes finding their words, and they're in their 40s, there should not be this automatic response to say, oh my goodness, there's Alzheimer's and dementia, right?
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
women are thinking that, but it's this explanation around the hormonal fluctuations that can occur that for some women, they're very vulnerable in that sense. And
Yes.
that's where treatments and other types of options can be offered to them. Once again, hormones or no hormones, it's always a personal choice.
Yes, and I think that that is important to know that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do, but they can offer you many different choices. It's amazing that I feel fortunate that I do live in this time where I do have choices. I
Me
can make
too.
these choices, and there's so much information out there that I can decide for myself what I want to do, and I love that we can do that. And so
Mhm.
when a woman goes to consult, whether her own doctor or whether she comes to you, what can she do to before she goes to that appointment? What can
Mhm.
she do to prepare herself or to help inform the person she's going to meet about what's happening with her?
What's happening? Absolutely. So, my approach has always been with experience to prepare with regards to having a sense of feeling heard and having a sense of passing the message. We know with certain providers, if we don't have a long time, it's important to go straight to the point and thinking, I'm experiencing these symptoms. This is how I'm feeling. These are how my nights are. I'm waking up, can't fall back asleep. These are just concrete examples that I'm giving you.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to articulate that past the good morning, hello, how are you, to be able to say, I'd like to go straight to the point, and here's the objective of my consultation with the provider. And to go in that sense and say, with my age, with my menstrual cycles, I'm thinking I'm going through perimenopause or approaching menopause. Is there something that can be helpful for me in this time? And then there's a sense of having the exchange with the healthcare professional. For women who are faced with providers that are wanting to prescribe quite rapidly an antidepressant or quite
Mm-hmm.
rapidly a form of contraceptive pill, for example, these are common practices. They're actually part of certain guidelines, to be honest. It's part of the science evolution. But then it's a question of, is that right for you? You don't need to take, you can have an exchange and say, is it hormonal replacement therapy or other consultants that can support depending on the symptom?
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So that would be for me, the time to prepare for the appointment is to identify what's going on and
Mm-hmm.
to make it succinct with the objective of why you're consulting in the first place. For sure, if a patient comes to Méno-Joie, we have virtual appointments and we do the same exam. The difference will be the physical exam that we love to do, but sometimes it's not possible for the patient to come. So it's a question. We have our guide because we're specialized in that. We know you're consulting for that reason. So it's a bit different. When you're starting from scratch and you're feeling unwell, some women have a small degree of discomfort. Some women have debilitating symptoms that cannot go to work, for example, during
Mm-hmm.
their period, or if they're menopausal, they're having difficulty with symptoms that are debilitating. There's different degrees. So your story is unique, and it's important to present it to the healthcare provider with that specific story.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's it. You have to do your own digging first to
Mm-hmm.
know yourself, know your body, know what's different, what's changed, what's not working anymore for you, what's
Mm-hmm.
affected, like your work, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to present that. And if your provider, because I know what happens, that they'll shut you down because either they say you're too young, or they say, or they want to put you on antidepressants. And if you don't agree with that, that it's okay to go somewhere else. It's okay to ask
Mm-hmm.
somebody else, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe get a referral from somebody that has been, like, I know you have your clinic, and anybody in Montreal now knows they can come to your clinic, and you're very specialized in that. And I hope that anybody else listening who doesn't live in this area can go to a place like that, who can have specialized doctors. I know on the NAMS, on the North American Menopause Society,
Mm-hmm.
there is a finder where you can find somebody who is more specialized in menopause. So my hope is for all women to find a provider who will listen to them, who will take them seriously when they're
Mhm,
coming with these things. And if you as a woman don't feel like you're getting the service you need, then go look elsewhere. Go find
mhm,
somebody else, and don't be afraid to. There are resources out there.
mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so
Yes, yes. And to give hope all the time.
mm-hmm.
And that's one key thing in our values is you can't take away hope from any women. And unfortunately, many do come with having a loss of hope because they were turned down or didn't feel listened to or were declined any offer, even if prepared. So it's a movement, right? Like we're saying, right, Debbie? It's a question of progress, and it's a question of first comes your well-being, but the impact on the society and all women is taking form. It's very
Yes.
exciting. Very
It is
exciting.
exciting. I think I get the feeling we're at the beginning of something, which is exciting. Like you
Hmm.
said, pioneers, right? This is what it is. I think this is what it is. I mean, menopause has been around, but it's not been brought to the forefront like it's being spoken about now, and women are talking about it, and it's out in the social media. So I mean, it's out there,
Yes.
which is so great to see, and so many good books are coming out about it. So I
Mm.
think that's amazing. I love what you're doing. I love that we can go see you, and that you're so close to where I am, which is wonderful. So, as I ask all my guests, my last question to you will be, what's the best part of getting older for you?
Mm. For me, I'll use an example, Debbie. I was listening to a very interesting podcast because that's also very fun, to gain other people's experiences and to take note of it and take what's good for you, what's not, but to listen in on people's experiences. That's something I love to do. And he had taken a measuring tape with 1 meter being 100 centimeters. And when you think of 100, a life of 100 years is quite long, and I don't know if we'll be able to make it that long. But if I speak for myself, he took the measuring tape and cut off a big piece from the age. So, for example, I'll disclose I'm 47. So he ripped at 47, for example, and then you see what's left. And then you look at being healthy and physical. He took another small part off with the average age of our lifespan for women.
Mm-hmm.
And what was left was quite short.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's the question of what's amazing getting older is that to not take anything for granted and to be able to say, I have choices and I've learned a lot along the way, and that what serves me good and what does no longer serve me is behind me. So to be in the present moment, have a sense of consciousness, and to be aware that we have a very short lifespan in this wonderful life opportunity. So I guess there's something around spirituality, and there's something around, um, yeah, this sense of also giving back in the sense of, um, with humility, right? Being able to give back to
Yeah.
the community in that sense. So that would be for me the
Yes.
positive twist of aging with health.
Yeah.
Without health, there's nothing.
No, I agree with you. That's it. It's one thing to have a long life. It's another thing to have a long, healthy life. I think that when we say we want to live to an old age, it's because we want to live healthy to an old age. So I don't
Mhm.
think anybody wants to live unhealthily, but unfortunately, that is what is happening sometimes, is that yes, we can live older, but we're not always living those years as healthy as we could. So a lot of it
Correct.
is in our hands, right? Like you said, and it really is up to us to do that. And yeah, it gives you perspective. So at
A lot
47,
of
I'm
perspective.
51, I've got a different perspective for sure now on life and health, and making it a priority, like actually making it like this is my priority, is to take care of myself, especially right now when I know things are changing and I do have to make changes to be able to stay as healthy as I have been up until this point in my life. Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. It's a question also keeping in mind that it's a progress, a work in progress. And when you are at a mature women's age, It's a question it's really important for women to know it's not an all or nothing. There has to be pleasure within this progress, right? In the
Yes.
sense that some women can be very hard on themselves. They're like, I'm eating right, I'm exercising, I'm doing this, I'm having sex every week with my husband. Like my checklist is all done, but it can't just be a list of tasks. There's a lot of question of empowering through a certain sense of well-being means happiness as well throughout it. So
Yeah.
I think that's important to have that notion in place as well.
Yes, that is. It should be behind everything, ideally, is that that's the feeling we're checking in with. Does this make me happy? Not does this make me thin or does this make me more beautiful, but does this make me happy? I really hope
Right.
as we get older, that becomes the question.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, that would be amazing. So if the women in my audience would love to, and I know they would, would love to get in touch with you, find out more about you or your clinic, how can they do that?
Well, we have a website that is quite thorough with the tracks of services that we offer. And if anybody wants to do Méno-Joie.com, so MENOJOIE.com, is the best way through the website. There's a form that could be entered online. It's no commitment and it's just a question of wanting more information. Fill out the form from wherever you are, and we can connect with you by offering you a first appointment with the nurse clinician, and we proceed that way. If somebody doesn't want to go through that route, they can give us a call as well. The phone number is on the website. And then the third option would be to write to us on a separate email at info@menojoie.com.
Okay, perfect. That's very simple. Are you on social
Super
media at
simple.
all?
We are absolutely. I'd love to have more followers as we are still in our first year of, I'll say, production. Méno-Joie, Clinique Méno-Joie on Instagram or Facebook, we're there.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm going to
Thank
include
you.
all of those things in the show notes. So anybody who wants to get in touch with Marie-Josée or find out more about Méno-Joie or make an appointment, you can do that. You can just go to the show notes and it will be all there no matter what platform you're listening to. There will be show notes. So I really want to thank you, Marie-Josée, for being here with us today, for informing us so much about, what you do, but what you've brought to this city, to this province. I really am so happy that you exist and that you have done this amazing work. And I just want to support you. So uh,
I appreciate it so
I'm
much.
telling all the ladies out there to come and go and see Marie-Josée.
Thank you so much, Debbie. It means a lot. It's a work in progress, and we're so motivated that it'll take a lot of obstacles before anything would shut us down. Believe me, there's a lot of leadership and stamina behind all of this initiative. And hopefully,
Mhm.
Méno-Joie will spread its wings as time evolves. So, thank you so much for your support
That's it.
and for choosing us for your own healthcare. And welcome to all the women and their partners if they have questions as well. Sometimes men have questions as well.
Of course they do. Okay, well, thank you so much,
Thank you so
and
much.
we'll stay in touch.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank
Be
you.
well. Bye
You
bye.
too.